Chelsea are holding their Disability Football Festival today with around 400 participants taking part in a tournament. Let's join Paul Gilmore now, who is at Chelsea's training ground. Paul, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, as you say, the Premier League Disability Football Festival hosted by the Chelsea Foundation here at Cobham, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the former Chelsea midfielder Jody Morris. And Jody, before we talk all things Chelsea, just tell us a bit about the event today. It looks great, plenty of goals going in. Just tell us about it.
Well, I mean, having spent so many years here at the football club, I witnessed some of the great work that the Chelsea Foundation have been doing for so many years, and this is just obviously another event that they're hosting with the Premier League, where they're giving these kids an amazing opportunity to not only come and use the facilities at a great training ground like Chelsea, but to compete and to go up against each other and obviously have an excellent day of tournament football, which, like you said, it seems to be going really well at the moment.
I think Chelsea are playing, so we'll keep you up to date with any goal updates as we go through this chat. But let's speak about the first team at the moment, and the men's first team. And Mauricio Pochettino has come in. He's had his first week. He's hosted a barbecue for staff. He's been in front of the media. What have you made of what's been the first impressions of the new head coach?
Well, I think first and foremost, you've got a high-level coach that has obviously worked at some great clubs. Developed a lot of players, played a certain style of football that I think a lot of the Chelsea fans will be really happy to watch. And yeah, if you're watching the interviews this week and the words that are coming out from Mauricio, is you'd be highly encouraged. He's talking about winning straight away. I think he's fully focused on obviously where the club are going to be heading as far as recruitment is concerned. I think the club maybe needs to do that, but when you come into a new club and a new environment, the first thing you want to do is get on the grass, and obviously your first week of work is trying to meet other staff members that are maybe around the place, get to know the players from a bit more of a personal level, and I'm sure he'll be building upon that like all good coaches do.
And of course, so much has been changing at the football club over the last year or so. There seems to be work ongoing to get the squad ready for this season. What have you made of that work, and how far still does it need to go before the team is ready to win?
I think from the outside, I mean, you could tell that there is too many players at the football club. There's no point beating around the bush and making out that wasn't the case. You can't operate to the high level of how the club would want to with 30 players. We've obviously seen a lot of outgoings. I think that needed to happen, as well as I'm sure the new manager and the staff that he'll be working in conjunction with upstairs are working on maybe adding to. But I don't think you'll get an idea or maybe a sort of view of how the squad will be taking shape until we get closer to the season. There's still a lot of time before the first game comes around to us all. I'm sure we're all looking forward to, but I think there'll still be a lot more outgoings and maybe a few more incomings.
And an area you're well qualified to speak about in midfield, especially at the moment, is that looking one area that is quite light and still needs some work, or do you think there are some younger players in there who could actually step up with some of the experience leaving and surprise us?
No, I think if you're being honest, you're looking at it and we do look like just purely on the outgoings and the type of players that have left the club. They'll be difficult to replace, but it happens at every football club. It's not just us. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more outgoings than usual, but when you do lose good players, it's important that you try and replace them. Or like I said, and they might not be like for like, they might not be the exact same player, but any manager or any new coach that's going into a club is going to want to add his own touches and the type of players that he wants to be coming into the building. And I'm sure he's working behind the scenes and has already had his input with everything that's going on upstairs. But yeah, you do look like the midfield maybe need some new additions.
Yeah, I think as the work is ongoing, clearly it looks like the club have a plan at the moment and they're in the process of implementing that. But at the same time, do you also look at the likes of Kovacic and Mount going to, I guess, Premier League rivals? Do you worry about that side of it in any way?
I mean, you can always look at that and say, look, listen, can it come back to bite you on the backside? I mean, when you play against teams that are, when you obviously let players leave to other teams that you're going to be playing against. Ultimately, the first thing you look at is how well they do for those clubs. But if your new additions or your replacement players or the way in which the manager wants to play starts well, then it's football. The nature is you quickly forget about things. Those players that have moved on will be happy with where they've gone, be happy that it's a new lease of life or a change in their careers, whereas Chelsea have got to look to the future as well, and they got to look to back the manager, and they got to hope to add to the squad that will resemble the type of squad that he wants to build.
I know you've spoken about Mason Mount in the past. You guys obviously managed him here and coached him here, and he won the Champions League with Chelsea, came through the academy. He talked this week about once he realised he wasn't in Chelsea's plans, that was his time to move on. Is that probably the most difficult one for maybe Chelsea fans to take, given that history he's got with the club?
Absolutely. Any time a homegrown player leaves, I think there's a little bit more on it. Obviously, you get certain players that reach a certain status at this club that even if they're not homegrown and they're leaving, we've seen it in the week with Aspilicueta. He was a great servant to the football club. But I think, like you said, when Mace, there's a lot that's gone on over the last year, and when Mace knows that he's going to be moving on, then when that happens, he deserves and should be happy. As Chelsea fans, I think it was sad to see someone he's been player of the year 50% of the time that he's been playing in the first team. So for me, it was sad, but at the same time, now it's done. You've got to move on. Mace will be feeling like that. He will already have his mindset on impressing at Man United and doing well for Man United and wanting to impress their fans. And Chelsea, as much as it obviously may have hurt seeing someone like that leave the club, you've got to move on and move forward. And once a player's out the door, you've got to be thinking about, right, what's next and what the future holds. And hopefully, with the new manager we got in place, that it's a bright one.
Yeah, well, let's look forward then. What do you think they can achieve in that first season? I know Mauricio Pochettino has talked a lot about winning and having no excuses and getting to work on the training ground immediately. Is it possible for, I know this might be a difficult question to answer because we still don't know what the final squad is for the start of the season, but if they get that right, can they win a trophy this season?
I think you can win a trophy. The fact that you're at Chelsea Football Club and there's so many talented players still here, you can absolutely say, why couldn't you win a trophy? But again, the manager will need, first and foremost, he will need time to implement his ideas. You'd want recruitment to go well, and then you need to see how that kind of gels. We've seen before that sometimes when you get a lot of players come in at the same time, it's hard to maybe sort of hit the ground running, and when people need to adjust to a new league, new lifestyle, new manager, things can take their time. But you also get the other side of it where things can just click. You might be one or two additions that come in that really help the team. The profile and the balance of the team needs to be better than it was last year, and players need to know that this manager's in place and this is where we're going and we need to follow him. And I think the quicker that happens, the quicker the results will improve than what they did last year.
And Pochettino talked yesterday about trusting that kind of process. He gave off that feeling that there was a collective, both on the pitch and the coaching side and with the ownership and the technical directors. Does it finally feel, I guess, given some of that turbulence as things were changing, that there is a plan in place and it's kind of moving in that stable direction, if you like?
Well, the fact that it's a permanent manager, I think, is always going to help. But like you said, I don't think we'll get an idea of what the makeup of the squad looks like or where any of it is heading until we kind of get down to the nitty-gritty. And you have to say we've got a top-class coach that has done well in the Premier League already, done well in France. And I think he's probably the perfect type of manager that we need for a lot of the younger players. I think Pochettino makes no bones about what he expects from his players. He expects hard work, and he likes to play the type of football that I think most Chelsea fans like to watch. So the fact that he's a permanent manager and in place is good for everybody involved at the club, I think.
And speaking of some young players, I know the England under-21s are in a final and very much looking forward to that. Is it? I think generally speaking that the kind of different age groups, there have been a lot more finals and successive later. Just talking generally about promoting younger footballers in this country, are things going right at the moment, and why do you think that's been over recent years?
Do you know what? I think it's been like that for years, to be honest. I look back at Dan Ashworth's time at the FA, and I thought he made some outstanding changes to the younger age groups. I think the fact that Gareth has come through those age groups himself and included all those amongst and made the England group as a whole feel a little bit more like a tight-knit community. And when you see the work that Lee Carsley's doing with this under-21s, as I said, I think you look back at your Steve Coopers and people like that have won major tournaments with England, is now going on to do great things at Nottingham Forest. I think Lee Carsley deserves a lot of credit, not just because the fact that they're making a final. I mean, they haven't conceded a goal yet. The type of football that they're playing is great, and the players seem to be enjoying playing. And I think when you get that in the younger age groups from England, from under 16s upwards, that only bodes well for the future and for Gareth, because obviously when you go to the actual England team, we've performed well in tournaments, and I have to say that I believe that a lot of that is down to the fact that we've performed well at youth tournaments previously. And as I said, I think a lot of credit has to go to Dan Ashworth and Gareth Southgate over those periods of time.
Brilliant, Jody. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Jody Morris speaking here at this Premier League Disability Football event hosted by the Chelsea Foundation at Cobham. And we'll be back here throughout the afternoon here on Sky Sports News.
Paul, Jody, thank you very much.